All right, everybody, welcome to another chat with Sean Hillacre out of Standard Uranium. He's going to tell us everything that's just happened with their Sun Dog project up in the north region of the Athabasca Basin. Sean, welcome back.
Thanks, Fabi. Great to be back.
Cool. So I'm going to start off with asking you what we knew about Sundog in the first place, because you hear a lot about projects being drilled to the east or the west of the Athabasca Basin, typically, and then you guys went up north. So what was it about Sundog that made you guys interested in going up there in the first place?
That's a great question. Sundog, like you kind of mentioned, normally exploration historically has been focused on the east side of the basin. In the last decade or so, the southwest corner has been heating up with NextGen and Fission and us exploring Davidson River. And so Sundog is, kind of in this old timey area of Canada's very first uranium mining camp up by Uranium City. So it's named that for a reason. Back in the day, they were mining uranium through the 50s all the way through up to the 80s. Lots of prospecting in that area, and there's a lot of uranium at surface. So the difference with Sundog is there's actually rock outcrop right at surface, which you don't really get in the other parts of the Athabasca Basin. It's all buried under the sandstone and overburden and boulders and things like that. So that in itself makes the project unique. And not only that, but there's actually visible uranium mineralization right in those rocks at surface, which is very cool. As a geologist, you can get up there, you can really visualize what's happening, what structures are controlling this mineralization and that type of thing. And so back in the day, they were mining these Beaver Lodge style deposits, which are all basement hosted. They're lower grade, they're smaller in size than your Athabasca unconformity related deposits. So that's what they were exploring up there for in the past and mining as well. So now we've kind of come back up there with our understanding of how Athabasca high grade deposits work. And we're looking for that style of mineralization up there as well now. So that's what we've been focusing on the project. We've gone up there, we've done some ground truth sampling at surface, some mapping, prospecting, and identified a lot of high grade areas right at surface, 2%, 3%. There's a trench sample on the project that ran 12% U3O8. So really cool results right at surface. And these things haven't really been tested at depth at all. So that's our exploration thesis for Sundog, is to come up here with our modern understanding, modern technology, and try and breathe some new life into the area. We're not the only company up there doing work. There's also Fortune Bay, Fission 3.0 has some property up there. So it's really nice to get up there into this really cool area of Saskatchewan and start some modern exploration.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that 12% trenching. If you find those numbers, you're not going to ignore that. I'm sure as a geologist, you're probably, really, really eager to go and follow those up with actual drilling. So
exactly.
You've just wrapped up the winter campaign. Tell us how that went and what you guys have found out so far.
Sounds good. So we did our very first program last winter in 2022. We drilled 4 holes. We had 1 drill rig up there. It was our very first program on the property. So we kind of figured out all the logistics. Obviously, it's very remote. You can't drive to Uranium City in the summer. So we rely on ice roads to keep costs down. I mean, you can barge things in, you can use planes and helicopters, but obviously that adds up really quickly in the budget to try and, fly in a drill or barge in a drill, that kind of thing. So we figured out, drilling in winter works really well. Saskatchewan Research Council is up there remediating the Gunner mine right now. So we partner with them on the ice road and we can get right in there. So we did that first program last year, figured out all the moving pieces. And then the plan for this year was to get up there with 2 drills and really sink our teeth into what we found out from the last program. And we also ran a prospecting and mapping program last fall as well. So that helped us really gain more geological knowledge of what's happening on surface. Like I mentioned, what structures are controlling the mineralization that we can see. And that really helped us, tweak our targets and refine our drill targets for this year. So we got up there right at the beginning of March. And, we had everything in place to hopefully get up there early. But I'll tell you, this year was pretty tough up there weather-wise. So it was extremely cold and then got really warm and then really cold again. And that brought a bunch of snow with it. And so we had way more snow up there this year than we did last year. We didn't really realize how blessed we were with ice last year. We had about 5 or 6 feet everywhere on the lake, which was fantastic. We drilled 4 ice holes last year. And then this year, the snow insulates the ice so it doesn't get as thick. And so we had to do flooding and you know, the wind up there and everything caused a lot of issues with the thickness of the road, the ice moving and heaving. And so it was a bit of an adventure, I'll tell you that. So anyway, we ended up getting up there beginning of March. We just wrapped up and got back home on April 1st. And so we had a solid 4 weeks of drilling with 2 drills. We attempted we had a lot of high priority targets out on the ice. We drilled one of those. We attempted to drill several more of them. The ice, you know, we'd start drilling and the ice would start moving like 5 or 6 feet overnight. Like it was really, really challenging. So, you know, we pivoted, we focused on our land holes and we got both drills drilling some land holes and we had some really great results. So John and I have been talking about our Haven discovery for a while. We discovered this high grade showing at surface on Johnston Island back in 2020. And it's never been drilled ever. So that was one of our key points and main focuses that we wanted to get to this program. And we did. It was a pretty big challenge to get the drill up onto that outcrop. It's, you know, for Saskatchewan, it's a mountain. So the guys were working on that for quite a while, but we ended up getting the drill up there and drilling this thing for the first time. So that was hole number 13. And that was the last hole that we finished of the season, and we hit some mineralization in it, which was great. So we drilled 5 holes, 4 of which were on land, and then we intersected a whole bunch of really good looking structure and alteration, including dravite and clay and iron oxide alteration, which we can dig into a little bit later. But all really, really good signs that we're into a big alteration system here. There's a large structural framework, and then, you know, we hit some mineralization at the Haven discovery as well in the very first drill hole on that target.
Very cool. So you just mentioned what you actually found from the drill bit and all the different minerals that you're finding and how that's given you a clearer picture of what might be up there. Tell us a bit more about that, if you will, please, because, you know, for us as investors, we're looking at, okay, how much uranium did you find, right? And there's a lot more that goes before that. I've never seen any exploration company go up there and actually find high-grade uranium in their first try. So this is a process, and you guys are following the steps in that process. So tell me about the stuff that you found, and can you break it down for us, you know, a little bit further so that we understand what the rocks are telling you as a geologist?
Absolutely. That sounds great. So like I said, we're focusing on trying to find Athabasca style unconformity related mineralization. So in a nutshell, you have the Athabasca Basin, which is a bowl of sand. Essentially, it's all sandstone now. And then there's crystalline basement rock, like your granite countertops, essentially underneath that. So in the Athabasca Basin, the uranium mineralization can be perched, which is up in the sandstone. Most you know, deposits like Cigar Lake kind of thing are right at the unconformity, which is the contact between the sandstone and the basement rock. And lots of times we'll have basement roots. So you hear me talk about structure. Structural geology is really key to ore deposits in general. Essentially, that creates space in the rock. These rocks break and move and pull apart so that you have this space for dissolved metal, whether it be gold or uranium or, you know, you pick, to come in, interact with the rock in some way, alter it, which just means change the rock. So there's specific types of alteration that we look for that we know are associated with uranium. And when that interaction with that host rock occurs, that metal will come out and drop out of that fluid and crystallize as a uranium mineral. And then boom, you have a deposit. So there's all these signs that we look for. So we talk about geophysics, we talk about the alteration. So as a starting point, we run geophysical surveys. These help us identify potential structures. So we talk about conductors, which are graphite bearing or sulfide mineral bearing, some conductive mineral that is focused in that structure. And, gravity surveys, resistivity surveys, all of these things help identify potential areas of significant alteration in the sandstone or in the basement. And so we layer up all these different ingredients that we want to look for. We want to look for these structures. We want to look for these zones of alteration where they overlap with that. And then that essentially makes a good drill target. Not only that, but at Sundog, like I said, we have high grade mineralization at surface that we can tie into that story as well. So, we come up there, we have our conductors identified. We ran a gravity survey last year. We have magnetics as well to help us identify these faults, so the big breaks in the rock where things can open up. And then we start drilling. So we did that. There's historical drilling in the area. There's mineralization in the basement rocks. So talking about those basement roots, there's mineralization at surface that's perched in the sandstone. And there's also mineralization at surface that's right at the unconformity. So the great thing about Sundog is you can actually walk the unconformity between the sandstone and the basement, which you can't really do anywhere else except an underground mine. So we use all those pieces to put together our drill targets and we go drill them. So what we found is a lot of great signs that we're in the right type of system, and the system is large. It has size. So we've drilled our first hole last year, hole number 1, had a whole bunch of dravite alteration. So dravite is actually a tourmaline mineral. It's rich in boron. Boron, I'll save you the really technical details, but essentially it's elevated boron that's kind of this clay mixture. It's very identifiable, and it's a really good sign that you're in the right type of system for uranium. We don't usually find that type of alteration, just by itself. It's associated with a lot of the really high grade deposits in the Athabasca Basin. So that gets us excited. And then we drilled our hole 13 at Haven, and then, another few hundred meters to the north, we drilled a couple holes at our Wally showing, also on Johnston Island. So in between all of those holes is about 878 meters of strike length. And all of those holes have dravite in them and clay and these other alteration types we're looking for. So right there, that's a pretty big footprint of a potential alteration halo. And then we also hit dravite in hole 2, which is up to the northwest. So it's a pretty nice footprint of focus for us that is concentrated around these high grade showings at surface. Not only that, we have really, really good looking structure in the sandstone and the basement rocks. So essentially, when I say structure, like I said, these rocks are broken up and opened up so that fluids can come in, change the rock or alter them. And so we're seeing these brilliant quartz hematite breccias. I've mentioned that before. You read news releases from other companies, they talk about these things as well. It's something that we saw a lot of back at the Arrow deposit when I was working there. So all of these really nice ingredients playing together that were close to something really exciting. So we did hit some mineralization at Haven, up to 1,300 counts, 1.5 meters of composite mineralization in the hole. That was the very first hole in the area. So we're really excited to follow up on that. Unfortunately, the weather kicked us out. We had to get out before the ice road melted, which it is doing right now, I'll say. And it's actually closed now too. So, we can't wait to get back. So I hope I didn't ramble too much there, but that's kind of the big picture from where we start and why we're excited about what we're seeing and what that could potentially mean for that area. And it's also on land, which is great too. We're really excited about the Johnston Island area.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see follow-ups on the Haven discovery with, I think it's 1.5 meters of up to 1,300 counts per second.
Correct.
So there is something there, right? It's not barren. There is something there. And obviously you need to do some more drilling to follow up on that.
For sure. I mean, it's, we're well aware it's not earth-shattering grades, but, having a hit like that, that's real. We have our quick assay function on our handheld super spec. So it gives you a uranium, thorium, potassium ratio, and it was all uranium. So that's a good sign. We'll get the assays back But on the gamma probe, I mean, a nice spike of 1300 in the first hole, and so it's real. It's good. We're happy to follow up on that for sure.
Very exciting. So tell me what's next for Standard Uranium. What are you guys coming out with soon?
Yeah. So we just put out some news about our east side projects. We have never drilled these before. So we have 3 projects over on the east side of the basin. They're called Atlantic, Canary, and Ascent. And there's a little bit of historical drilling over there, but very underexplored for the eastern basin. So like that has been the hub since the beginning of time in the Athabasca Basin in uranium exploration. So we're kind of along that northeast trending, zone of all these really high grade deposits. And there hasn't been much drilling there and much work done. So we're really excited to go over there and start testing these things. So last year in 2022, we did our first work on the project. We ran geophysical surveys on all 3. So we did a ground gravity survey on Atlantic, and we did a ground DCIP, which is a resistivity survey on Canary. And then we flew a helicopter-based EM survey on Ascent. So we've, putting all these pieces together just enhances the discovery potential of all 3. There's actually historical mineralization on Atlantic right at the unconformity in a few historical drill holes. So we're excited to go follow up on that and use what else, we've kind of modeled everything, and we're just getting the final touches on some data processing on the gravity from Atlantic. And I'll say I'm really excited about Canary and Ascent. The resistivity anomaly that we have on Canary looks very juicy. I'm very, very excited to get over there and put some holes into it. Lines up beautifully with the EM conductors on the property, and no historical drilling. A lot of analogs that we can draw looking at that in the model to other deposits that are known as well, which is great, very promising. And then Ascent is a cool project as well because it actually straddles the edge of the basin. So half of the project is in the basin and half of the project has no sandstone. So, and it's never really been drilled either. There's, some radioactive boulders on the project. There's a really big lake sediment geochemical anomaly, so elevated uranium and a whole bunch of these other pathfinder elements that we look at to help identify uranium fluid systems. And those line up very beautifully with the conductor that we've resolved in a lot higher detail now with the EM survey that we flew. And it's all relatively shallow depth, which is another great thing. We're not looking for mineralization at, 700 or 900 meters. So from a mineability and, pushing this forward into potential feasibility, and, you just have these thoughts in the back of your head, it all looks really good for the east side. So we're really hoping to pull together an inaugural drill program on at least 2 of these projects this year. So we'll see how that goes. The planning has all kind of been done. We have all the pieces together. We got all our vendors lined up and everything like that. So hopefully we can pull that off. And then after that, we'd be looking to head back to Davidson River down in the southwest corner. So our flagship project there, we've talked about it before. We have ALS Gold Spot Discoveries working with us on, this AI machine learning, viewpoint to the geophysics and the previous drilling and mineralization in the area, and running algorithms to compare, what looks like it might be a high grade deposit based on what we know and data regionally and that kind of thing. So they've added some really, really interesting layers to our exploration program at Davidson River that we have planned. So that would be the plan for the summer, following hopefully a spring program over on the east side. And then, with the positive results we saw out of Sundog, we're antsy to get back up there. So we're currently looking at what a fall program could look like up there. So, not only drilling out on the islands where we have been, but we actually have a whole bunch of mainland targets that we haven't even touched yet. So they're a little bit outside the basin, but they are on the mainland and accessible during that period. So we could potentially run a helicopter program out of Uranium City and hit some of those targets, as well as following up on Haven. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It's we got big plans and a lot of brilliant targets across all 5 projects to test.
It seems like you're not going to get much time off this year, Sean. I'm sorry to say.
No, but it's good to be busy. I mean, that's our whole goal, is to keep our team busy. We've built a great team of young geos. We have excellent vendors that are working with us and really want to keep working with us. So yeah, hopefully we can make it happen and keep everyone busy and continue down this year of discovery in 2023. That's the plan.
Brilliant. Well, we'll be watching very closely and obviously rooting for you guys, because that's a lot of work. You know, you're drilling all around the basin. Not many companies have the young energy to do that. So that's awesome to see. Sean, thank you so much for sitting down with us and explaining to us what you guys are finding there. And yeah, that definitely kind of leaves us with some taste in our mouths of we kind of want to see more, and we'll be following up with you hopefully shortly.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Fabi, for having me back on the show.
Not a problem. See you later.